Welcome to the My Rita Minutes. Uh, for all that are new here, welcome. To those who have joined me on my journey, thank you so much. I want to talk about the latest episode, Real Housewives of Atlanta, called Chicken and Waffles. So it starts off really light with Shamia and her girls, Shia and Shiloh. We see them at the doctor's office. After Shamia got back from Grenada, the girls' group trip, she was diagnosed with strep throat. So she had the baby there to make sure that she hadn't caught anything from her because she was making new noises. So they tested the baby's fine. But she also goes into how, she still wants to give her husband another baby. She wants to give him a son if she can. And, they had one embryo. I think that's how you say it. I guess they have one embryo left. Anyway, they tried it with the surrogate. They showed, the surrogate talking to her husband. And they tried it, and I guess it didn't take, so it failed. So she said right now they're just going to step back a little bit and I guess revamp, but I guess they'll try again at a later time. But I thought she was taking hormones or something so she could give more eggs or freeze more eggs. I thought that's what she was doing, but maybe not. But anyhow, they're going to take a break for now, but she does still want to give him a son. He deserves it. Okay. So then Phaedra is the next segment, and she is talking with her boys. They're actually designing, well, Dylan, I think who's the youngest, is designing his own clothing line or cargo pants collection. And Phaedra said that it started out with he wanted a pair of bell bottoms and they didn't have his size. So she said, well, maybe I'll buy you a sewing machine and you can, make your own. That's a nice sounding story, but for some reason, I don't believe that. But I mean, it could be true, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I'm not saying that he don't like, maybe he liked home ec or something in school, and maybe he does have a liking for sewing. I mean, he was coming across like he did in the episode. But anyway, he's got his own cargo pants, and she lets him know that she's having a showing, and she wants him to showcase his pants at their boutique. I want to say it's called the Vault. I think her and a couple other ladies have this clothing line. They have furs, they have faux furs, they have different clothing, mostly for women, I think. But she thought that would be a great opportune time to show to a small group of elite folk, um, his line or whatever. She's real proud of him. So she was like, we can get 3 models. You can make yourself a pair. She said, you can make me a pair. He was like, nah. She was like, okay, hater. So the next scene is Kelly, and Kelly is on her way to work. I mean, I'm sorry, on her way to court. However, the cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom, but she's thinking that she's going to go get her divorce, and that didn't happen. Matter of fact, her husband or ex-husband, soon to be ex-husband, went to jail for non-child support payments. So after she gets home, I think Shamia comes over to check on her, thinking that maybe she, see how she's holding up, see how she's feeling. And Kelly explains to her that she's still married. It's not over yet. And she's like, you kidding me? Like, no. And she explains to her that he got locked up for not paying child support. While Shamia is there, Angela calls and wants to know how she made out, just checking on her and everything. And Kelly was seemed like she was grateful for Angela following up with her, calling to see how she's doing. Um, and at the same token, Kelly says, "Well, Shamia's here, and Shamia's like, "That's so great of you, or so nice of you to call and check up on her to see how she's doing." She was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh wow," and so they hang up. So then Shamia brings up, has she talked to Britt? And Kelly said she hadn't talked to Britt since Grenada. And Kelly talks about how she held Britt down through the whole Kenya debacle. And and then they do a flashback where she went and got like IV therapy for her, just trying to be a supportive friend because of the humiliation that Kenya put her through. And she thought she really showed up for her as a true friend. And you would think that Britt knows what she's going through, that she would call and check up on her, but Britt has not done that. Britt is still holding on to Kelly, aside from the stuff that we've learned outside of the show about their glam team or whatever. But I really feel like Britt is holding on to sa- that saga at the dinner table, because remember, she pulled her up the day after and saying, when you can pull me up, you don't have to, make this a lesson in front of the group. You can pull me to the side and say, this is what you need to do, blah, 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 blah. I feel like Britt felt some way about how Kelly carried her at the dinner table. I see it. I saw that. And Britt was like, she's supposed to be my best friend. She said, that don't feel too much of like a best friend. I mean, she even said it. She called her out on it. She called Shamia out on her stuff too. Britt seems to be really, and I'm not really a Britt fan, but I don't know Britt. But for what I can see, I'm not saying she's perfect because nobody is, but she has some valid points. And she be calling them ladies on the carpet. She be letting them know. Like, stop being passive aggressive. She'll tell somebody in a heartbeat, stop being passive aggressive. Anywho, they go on to Phaedra. They s- Phaedra, then they show Phaedra how she sends out her invitations for her event at, I think it's called the Vault. I can't remember what her clothing thing is that she's having the event at. But anyway, you see she opens a black box. It's kind of like what she sent before. It was crazy on Married to Medicine, wasn't it? Anyway, she invites everyone that way. Meanwhile, the next segment, Kelly and Charles are having a cookout. Okay. And Charles basically said in his confessional, it's a lot of people that have restaurants that still can't cook. His thing was he can handle whatever uh Kelly throws his way, because he evidently can throw down in the kitchen. Anyway, they all prepared, and I think first Kelly was like, "Well, we're gonna, have a cook off, I guess, with the waffles." And Angela said, "You have a whole waffle mix. What are you talking about?" She said, "Okay, okay." She said, "Well, we'll have the basic waffle mix, and then whatever topping they were gonna do, that's what they were gonna, you know, try to compete against each other with, right?" In the meantime, the ladies must have asked about Britt, um, and I guess because she wasn't there. And Kelly again explained to them that she hasn't spoken to Britt since Grenada. And everybody's like, girl, what is weird? That's weird. They like, what in the waffle mix? She said, something ain't kosher, something ain't right in this waffle mix, or something. Somebody said something like that. But anybody, everybody's picking up that her and Britt ain't the best of friends. Meanwhile, while they're at Kelly's event, Britt invites Portia and Cynthia over to her house for some drinks, and I couldn't tell what they had to munch on. Looked like something was in a paper towel. Maybe she had bought some crackers or something. I don't know. But it didn't, she had no charcuterie board like Phaedra told her to get. So they're all sitting around there talking, and Britt says that, her and Kelly have had a little situation that's going on outside the group. And it has to do with the glam team. Now, based on what they're saying on the show, they're saying that Kelly doesn't want her glam team working with Britt anymore. And I'm thinking it's not because she's jealous. It came across initially that you're taking her team. Like, y'all have to be at the same events. Like, y'all can't really split the teams. You know what I'm saying? So, evidently, it takes a lot for them to just deal with one person. She's going to, split her time with another person and try to live her best life and dress. So, anyway, come long story short, Britt seemed to think that Kelly was jealous of her and made a comment about how she thought that Kelly thought that Britt's looks were better when they went to Tennessee. And then they did a side by side comparison, like they both would have on red, but their dresses would be different, or they would both have on like the cow print, but the outfit would be different. But you got to remember, Kelly is fun size. Everything that looks good on Kelly is not going to look good on Britt, and vice versa. So where she might have liked the outfits that Britt wore because she's short, she got a short torso. Britt has elongated, she one of them. I don't know, she's not an Amazon because she's not tall, tall, but she's tall where she can pull off a look. It looks good on her because it hangs on her nicely. When you're short, okay, you have to come up with other ways to elongate your body. And some of that stuff that Kelly puts on don't do that. So I'm not saying she just looks bad. It's just that your body style, your body type, Brit can't wear her stuff and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's even true if she calls herself being jealous. I want to think it was a timing thing. And Brit, instead of getting her own team, wanted to continue to share Kelly's. And Kelly was like, no, I don't want y'all working with her anymore. So it sounded like maybe she was jealous. And maybe she was. I don't know. I have no idea. So, but then Britt goes on to say, well, they're not um working with me anymore. Now they're working with Shamia. And Portia's like, huh, what? She said, yeah, Portia's working with me. So Cynthia said, well, is Shamia aware of y'all situation or what happened? She was like, I don't know what she knows. So then Britt goes on to being really messy. And she brings up the fact that Shamia has been talking about Portia and has been sharing text messages with Britt, showing her what I guess Portia was sharing with her and about her. Britt seemed to think it was about the lawyer or the lawyer, some dialogue back and forth that she was having about the lawyer. And Portia's like, no, that wasn't from my lawyer. That's actually from, I think she said her therapist or whatever. And of course, in Portia's confessional, she's like, that's messed up if people are sharing your text messages, your intimate text messages or whatever. I don't know if I have Shamia doing that. So I don't really know. I don't know what Shamia is doing. But I really think Britt was being super, super messy. I don't know how you gonna gain friends like that. Now I get it. The goal of the show is to take be a bone carrier and start a conversation up like that. But you know. So when she was talking to Portia was like, no, I think Britt was like, well, is that a way for a best friend to be acting towards someone? And Portia was like, this is where I'm at with it. She was like, just worry about you. You do what's best for you. As if to say, you ain't got nothing to do with what's going on over here with me and Shamia. But furthermore, Portia was trying to tell her there shouldn't be any type of jealousy. And then Cynthia said, well, who are you? Frick or frack? Portia said, I'm both. She said, ain't no jealousy there. You can't have that type of friendship and have jealousy. I'm thinking to myself, meat kettle. Because as we all kind of know, Portia is a little jealous of Shamia. Of what she has as far as the finer things in life. The house, she don't have to worry about the mortgage, she don't have to worry about, you know what I'm saying? She got her man, she got her own man, she's married, and he obviously is a citizen, so they ain't messing with him. Um, so yes, um, yeah, so Portia was like, "You do what's best for you." So then they go back to Charles and Kelly, and they're finished their entrees or whatever, and their waffles and whatever they toppings they got on. So they're having everyone taste test. So Drew says, "Charles, you done took me back to my grandmother's house," and she names the address of where her grandmother was living. She was like, "This is good." And then I want to say, was it Portia? Not Portia. Phaedra. Who was on the end? It was Angela, Portia. It was Angela, Drew, Shamia. Shamia wasn't there. It was Angela, Drew, Phaedra. I don't know who else was there, but anywho, they were basically saying that it was a tie. Angela said it was a tie because they both, cook with put some love and soul into their cooking. So they just made it a tie. But I have a funny feeling they was liking Charles's better. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I wasn't there. But at the same time, this guy walks up to Angela and he was like, "Can I talk to you?" He said, "You don't know me." No, "Can I talk to you?" And Angela's like, "Well, who are you? Where do I know you from? What do you talk to me about?" He said, "I own a restaurant and your husband," he said, "I don't know you, but I know your husband. And I own a restaurant and I can tell you that he's been there with other women. He's cheating on you," or something to that effect. And um the girls kind of like overhear him say that. And they're like, "Who is that?" And she was like, "I have no idea who it is." Now, mind you, Charles is behind the counter acting like he don't see nothing. He acting like he don't even see nothing that guy's saying. And you could tell at one point when the guys in the back and they are like cheering to, the people at the table like Phaedra, um, Drew, and Angela, they're all like, "Yay," cheering that they both had a tie or whatever. So the guy in the background starts saying, "Well, I have a cheer. And if your name is Angela, your husband is cheating on you." Now, mind you, at that precise moment, the camera switches to Charles Oakley and he looks up but acts like he's not even there. Charles heard him. They want to act like, "Oh, Charles didn't hear him. Charles was doing it." Charles heard them. If everybody in front of Charles heard what he said and their backs were towards them, the guy, you don't think that Charles heard what the hell he said? He's actually facing him. I saw him when he looked up. He looked up as a smidgen. So it made me think, okay, I think he may know who that guy is, and maybe he's seen him before, or what have you. Or maybe he's frequented his restaurant quite a bit with different women. Who's to say? But when he looked up, you look at somebody act like you trying to avoid looking at them. That's what Charles did. Now, again, I don't know what Charles is doing. I ain't there. Okay. So if he's dealing with somebody, I can't say that he is, but I'm going by reactions. I'm going by people's movements and how they move. And usually people tell them themselves, hands down. So right after that, Portia can't make it to the car fast enough. She calling up her girlfriend Portia, and little did she know that Portia was sitting there with Britt and Cynthia as she spills the tea on what happened at the waffle cookout. And she basically says some man walked up to Angela and said, "Your husband is cheating on you." And they're all like, now first, let me say something about this. How can somebody in that type of atmosphere just be able to walk up to somebody and say, whoever your significant other is cheating on you. They're all mic'd up. Like who in it gives me either scripted, okay, or this production company sucks because they can't protect their talent. You know what I'm saying? Just anybody can just walk up to them and say anything because I'm sure those people were cleared. I saw not Bensworthy, Benj, Benjworthy. I saw him there. He was actually one of the people, that was invited to the cook-off. So I saw Benjworthy there, and he was standing with the guy Marcus. So Phaedra talks to them saying, some guy walked up and said that Angela's husband was cheating on her and blasey blasey boo boo. But then they said it didn't escalate. He was escorted out by security. So what is up with Truly Original? Because I think that's the production company, right? I don't like the fact they keep making it seem like Charles is a bad guy, like he don't care for his wife or he's cheating. Like why do you want to bring that negative light to a show where people just want to see people spend money and be doused in wealth? People need a reality away from their reality. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to tune in and look at somebody being mistreated or being disrespected. You ain't got to turn on the TV for that. I don't. Not that anybody's disrespecting me, because not anymore, because I am no longer married. But at one particular time, he wasn't the best. He wasn't no good husband at all. But he didn't put his hands on me and nothing like that. But he was very disrespectful in other ways. He couldn't keep himself together. Anyway, enough about me. Um, Phaedra arrives at the venue to talk about the event with the girls that are helping her organize the event. Um, Meanwhile, while she got there, Portia called her on the phone to break the news that Londi, her cousin, had passed away. And they had said something like early on, um, something was done in the memory of Londi or one of the episodes. Now, I don't know if that was right around the time she died because they were still filming, but yeah, they showed, little clips of her, helping Portia run Pamper by Portia, different things that she was involved in. But I'll never forget the segment on Portia Family Matters. And Londi was feeling some way about how she was being treated or something like that. Portia dismissed her. And I say that not because I want to put a damper on, because people evolve and they probably moved on from that. But my whole thing is be careful what you say to people because you just don't know how much longer you have with them. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So people start arriving at Phaedra's event and they're all black. Must have been an all black affair. They all come in one at a time, but Shamia comes in and she's looks nice. She got a cute little dress on, but she always comes in like she's trying to be the life of the party. Like Shamia, sit down, stop it with the corny stuff. She like, girl, you got a dress on, look classy. Stop. My lord. So they all walk in. Cynthia walks in. She looks pretty. Um, Britt walks in. And her thing is, hi, Kelly. She's talking to everybody. And then she goes, hi, Kelly. Kelly ignores her. So she says, hi, Kelly, again. Kelly's looking the opposite direction. Phaedra's looking like, wait, what the heck is going on here? Like, what is this? Phaedra's looking like, what is going on? Britt chuckles when she tries to ask, say hi to her the second time. She kind of like chuckles or whatever. I don't think Britt cares. Britt doesn't have a lot of girlfriends. She said that off the rip when we first met her in the beginning episode. She don't get along with females like that. And it is short lived, in which we're seeing, right? Angela came back and said they did some research to find out about the man that approached her at the waffle competition. And he said it was a man. The guy named Marcus said it was a man that paid him to be there. So Angela said, "Well, we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll find out." And so one of the production people said, "Are you connected to the mafia?" She was like, "No, we just have people that love us." I'm like, "Girl, go ahead." So Britt and Kelly are getting into it at this point. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I think I jumped ahead. No, so Drew arrives, and evidently she arrives late, and she goes into how she sent um Phaedra a screenshot of the traffic, and she was like, "I was just in traffic. This is what it looked like." And they said that Atlanta traffic is terrible, so you kind of like got a gauge on how long it's going to take you to get to a certain event. Now, if she left thinking that she's 30 minutes up the road, and with the Atlanta traffic it's really an hour, maybe to an hour and a half, you know you need to leave a little early. I mean, so you're not super super late. Now, maybe you didn't want to get there at the open of the doors, but come on, a whole hour and a half? That's so disrespectful. Anyway. Her and Britt Kelly and Britt get into it, and she says something like, about they were talking about the guy that came and addressed Angela, and Kelly makes the comment, "Well, the person that probably paid for it wasn't there," or whatever. It's trying to imply that it could have been, the people that weren't there. So Britt speaks up and says, I I had invited Portia and Cynthia to my house. And so she looks at the who else? And she was like, I think she looks at Cynthia and she said, "She let y'all in her house?" And they were like, and Britt was like, "Yeah, yeah, I invited them, to my house." And she was like, I don't know about this side of you. I've never seen this side. You need to stop being passive aggressive." And Kelly says, "I'm not passive aggressive. I'm aggressive." So Britt steps to her as if she said, "Oh, I ain't never seen this side. Like, come with it," type thing. So somebody steps in between them. I can't remember who. But yeah, that's crazy. So then they start taking jabs at each other. And Kelly's like, "Well, why don't you just go ahead and go back home and talk to your pill popping roommate?" Not her husband, right? She said her roommate. So, hello. Let's think about that, what she was implying. But she was like, "You need to go back to your pill popping roommate." She was like, "What?" She was like, "Girl, all this over the glam squad." So she starts talking about the glam and how Kelly told the glam squad or the glam team not to work with her no more because she was jealous and all this kind of stuff. She starts telling the ladies that. So Kelly comes back in and says, "Yeah, you wanted my whole team." And she said, "Yeah, but it was your idea for me to work with your team because you always need a sidekick and blah, blah, blah." They were going back and forth. And then all of a sudden, um, Britt gets real dirty and says, "Yeah, well, what about all those unalivings you gave your husband, did while you were married to your husband?" And they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Some things, just gotta be between you and her. When you get mad, you ain't supposed to say what those things that she held to you in confidence." And her things was when she was talking about me, she called me a pill popper. No, she didn't call you a pill popper, but she did call your husband one. So she was like, "Well, don't worry about," I think Kelly was like, "Well, don't worry about having no babies because you can't even have a baby. And this thing, you want to be like me." And that daggone prick gonna say, "Ain't nobody trying to be like you little hobbit." Girl, why she say that? Kelly's short, but she ain't hobbit short, is she? I don't know. That's funny. So Drew comes in after the presentation is over. That's when they've unlocked the doors. Now tell me why. I know Phaedra knew that Drew was out there. Now I understand she probably didn't want her walking and have her taken away for the moment because everything was being filmed during the presentation. But I'm sure there was a side door or a back door or something that she could have came in and just sat down. think they've been doing Drew dirty all this season, and she needs to get her comeuppance. Then they move over to Shamia and Britt, and she's talking to her about the whole Kelly, her and Kelly debacle. And basically, the long story short, she said, I don't need people that's around me that's gonna hate on me. She's really coming from an angle like Kelly's jealous of her. I don't think that's it, Britt, because you ain't anybody's trying to aspire to be like. I mean, you show up, okay, you driving the rolls and you got a Birkin, but you can only donate $250. Now, are you just being cheap or you don't have it? Because it sounds like to me, you got enough money to rent if you're renting a Rolls, because I don't think you're buying it, and you got enough money to um carry a Birkin. They're like, and depending on what size, I know that little one that Toya on Married to Medicine, I think she said that cost 36,000. So if she has a big Birkin bag, like why you spend all that money on a person? You ain't got that much to put in the purse. I'm just saying. Just saying. Well, that was pretty much the end of the episode. Tell me what you think. This episode I rated as maybe an 8.5. It did keep my attention throughout the whole thing. Usually I get up doing some segment because I don't care to really see anything about the people in the segment. So I'll go and do something and come back. But for the most part, it was kinda nice. I wish we could see more of what's going on with, you know, um, with Angela and Britt. Britt kind of let us in a little bit. We met her mom, we met her sister. She let us in a little bit, but we haven't met anyone. Have we? Have we met anyone on Angela's team? I don't know if we have officially met, but they're around. And so, tell me what you think about this episode. And with that being said, everyone be blessed. Peace.